Hi, my name is Victor Addona. I'm a statistician at Macalester College, as Mark mentioned. It's funny, Mark Lindemann said it was ironic he's talking about transparency. I have never voted in this country. That's irony. I think Pam said there was 20 states represented and 1 Canadian. There may be 2 Canadians. I'm not sure if I'm counted as a Canadian or a Minnesotan. But okay. So what I really wanted to talk about, and I think myself and Philip are going to address this, is sort of building on that last panel, which basically talked about how large an initial, an audit sample should be. How many precincts should we audit to have high confidence that the outcome came out correct? One of the points was we want to use statistically sound methods to do this. We don't want to just use a fixed percentage. And of course, I agree with this. But one of the main points I want to make today is that statistics should not stop there. It should be used in the entire process, from finding the sample size, how many precincts we should audit, all the way until there is a winner certified or 100% audit. I think somebody said, I'm not sure if it was Arlene, somebody said, you decide the sample size, and then if there are essentially no mistakes or no discrepancies, well, you're good to go, and that's true. And maybe one can argue, if you find massive amounts of mistakes, then it's pretty clear that we should continue auditing or continue looking for for a larger sort of a larger problem aside from that initial sample. But the point is, I guess, that I'm trying to make is, where do we draw the line between massive mistakes, a couple, 1 or 2 votes off? We don't want to do this in an ad hoc way. We want to use those, we want to still use statistical principles to make those decisions as well. Mary said we need to expect errors, and how large those errors need to be before we say, we can't certify this election is what I'm trying to really think about. And so we want to establish these rules that tell us when we need to continue auditing, and how much more we need to continue with. So there's sort of 2 pieces. So I call these, part of the title is triggers and escalation, and I think this is, what is going to trigger further auditing? What types of discrepancies are going to trigger further auditing, and how much further auditing should be done? And so I wanted to use an example, and so I'm gonna read out, or at least paraphrase, a trigger rule that's not statistically based, that's somewhat ad hoc. I mean, I guess I would call it ad hoc, and it's it's a paraphrase of what the Minnesota audit law states. But essentially, for a statewide race, the Minnesota law says that if any audited precinct shows a discrepancy of at least 0.5% when compared to the original electronic tallies, then 3 additional precincts must be audited in that same county where the discrepancy was discovered. And Mark mentioned there's 87 counties. So I want to just propose a thought experiment here. It's a totally hypothetical situation. But let's suppose there was miscounts in exactly 1 precinct in every county. Well, that's potentially a lot of miscounted votes if there's 87 counties. And let's suppose our initial audit was successful. And when I say successful, I mean, in fact, we almost explicitly said, I believe on panel 2, it's successful if we find a miscounted precinct when there are a lot of miscounts. Well, let's suppose there was this miscount pattern, 1 miscounted precinct in every county, and our audit found 1 or 2 miscounted precincts. Great. We are happy our audit was successful. Well, what does the escalation procedure say? It says, look at 3 more precincts in that county. Check to see if there's, more widespread error. Well, by the very definition of this miscount pattern, that escalation will not find any errors, because there is only 1 miscounted precinct in every county. And so the one you found in your initial audit sample is going to be the only one that's miscounted in the county. I'm in no way signaling out Minnesota. I'm just trying to illustrate that these escalations and triggers are part of the process. The statistics should not end at that initial sample size. So we need to have, what I sort of want to say, and I'll pass it over to Phil in a moment. We need to have rules in place where the chance of certifying the incorrect winner is small, and so, I think there's sort of 2 pieces the way I say it. It's small, but it's also entirely under our control, how small we're willing to accept. And I guess the last point, I have 30 seconds. The last point is something I wanted to just reiterate, something I heard Fritz say about, we're better together. I think sometimes there's a bit of a separation between the statisticians and the election officials and the state legislators. I'm really happy with everybody who I've worked with. The people who are usually involved in very, very technical work, we're always keeping an eye on real practical issues. What motivates a statistician, I hope, is a real world problem, not a mathematical one. And statisticians, the ones I know, the good ones, like to hang their hat on that, on the fact that it's not the math problem that's the most exciting to us, it's being able to solve a real problem. And we can't do that without you.